Brought to you by Penguin.
The Ultimate Hidden Truth of the World by David Graeber. Read by Jacques, Servin, and Savitri D.
Forward. With ferocious joy. Rebecca Solnit. David Graeber's disposition and propensities come through in print the way they did in person. That is, the prose here gallops and invites. He was a joyful, celebratory person, an enthusiast, voluble, on fire with the possibilities in the ideas and ideologies he wrestled with. Every time we met, from New Haven in the early 2000s to London a few years before his death, he was essentially the same, beaming, rumpled, with a restless energy that seemed to echo the constant motion of his mind, words tumbling out as though they were, in their unstoppable abundance, overflowing. But he was also much respected in activist circles for being a good listener, and his radical egalitarianism was lived out in how he related to the people around him. He was always an anthropologist. After doing field work among traditional peoples in Madagascar, he just never stopped, turning his focus to his own society. He found it both interesting and capable of being analyzed as arising from particular and often peculiar beliefs and customs. Essays such as Dead Zones of the Imagination, on violence, bureaucracy, and interpretive labor, and his book Bullshit Jobs, came from using the equipment of an anthropologist on stuff usually regarded as boring, or not regarded at all. The function and impact of bureaucracy. His bestseller on debt reminded us that money and finance are among the social arrangements that could be rearranged for the better. He insisted again and again that industrialized Euro-American civilization was, like other societies past and present, just one way of doing things among the countless options. He returned again and again to moments when societies rejected agriculture or technology or social hierarchy, when social groups chose what has often been dismissed as primitive because it was more free. This work culminated in his 2021 book with David Wengrow, The Dawn of Everything, prefigured in the essay here titled, There Never Was a West. And he rejected all the linear narratives that present contemporary human beings as declining from primordial innocence or ascending from primitive barbarism. He offered in place of a single narrative many versions and variations, a vision of societies as ongoing experiments, and human beings as endlessly, restlessly creative. That sheer variety was a source of hope for him, a basis for his recurrent insistence that it doesn't have to be this way. As Marcus Rediker wrote in his review of David's posthumous book, Pirate Enlightenment, everything Graeber wrote was simultaneously a genealogy of the present and an account of what a just society might look like. He was, as seen throughout these essays and in all his books, concerned about inequality of all kinds, often including gender inequality in this society and others, and the violence that enforces inequality and unfreedom, and how they might be delegitimized, and where and when societies might have escaped them. He focused, in short, on freedom and its impediments. He was often credited with coining the phrase, "We are the 99%, but he insisted on paring his credit down to having contributed the 99% part to what became an Occupy Wall Street slogan so compelling that the 1% remains a widely used description of the uppermost elite. The 99% is itself a hopeful phrase in opposition to the old layer cake description of the working, middle, and upper classes. It's an assertion that the great majority of us are working and often financially struggling or precarious, that most of us have a lot in common and a lot of reasons to oppose the super rich. The essays gathered here are a reminder that David devoured literature far beyond the field of anthropology. In history, economics, archaeology, and political science, his writing is a synthesis of this material and current events, as digested by his own incendiary imagination. He loved ideas. He took joy in his work and in how that work could and did intersect with actualities on the ground, especially with the radical movements of the late 1990s and the new millennium, including the anti-corporate globalization movement that peaked with the shutdown of the World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference in...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?